Welcome to Intuitive Transformations with your host, Sylvia Henderson, and discover tools, wisdom, and inspiration that will empower you to transform your life. Sylvia is an intuitive life coach and energy healer with a growing practice that is focused on empowering others to be more of who they want to be. For the next hour, join Sylvia and explore and unravel anything in the way of you creating the life that you would love to live on the OMTimes Radio Network.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Intuitive Transformations radio show on OMTimes Radio, the voice of consciousness. I'm Sylvia Henderson, your host, and I'm here every Sunday evening at 6 p.m. Pacific Time and 9 p.m. Eastern Time on iom.fm. Just to let you know, Intuitive Transformations Radio is where you will find tools you can use to transform your life. And it's really about creating connections soul to soul and to share valuable information and resources that will inspire you to expand into more of who you truly are so that you can step more boldly into what you love and desire to receive in your life. And what better place to do that than right here on OMTimes Radio, where there is a wide variety of shows and music that are available for your listening pleasure 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. For more information about OMTimes Radio, OMTimes Magazine, and the OMTimes Advisors, please be sure to visit omtimes.com. We're always here. Also, if you're ready to create some real and lasting change within your own personal life, feel free to contact me for a complimentary 15-minute consultation and discover firsthand how I can help you transform your life. And I just want to share real quick a testimony that I recently received from a brand new client, just to give you an idea of a little bit of the work I do. This is from Sean, and Sean says, Sylvia is wise, gifted, and caring, which makes the session all the more powerful. I could feel the energetic changes occurring as Sylvia cleared the root causes that have kept me in limitation and suffering, literally for lifetimes. I'd like to personally thank Sean for that very loving feedback. And if you would like to read the rest of Sean's testimony, please feel free to just visit my website at intuitivetransformations.net. It's just like the name of the radio show, intuitivetransformations.net. And I'm happy to give you a 15-minute complimentary Skype or phone consultation. And while you're there on my website, be sure to like me on Facebook and also follow me on Twitter. After all, you might just experience the change that you have been waiting for. And speaking of change, which is always inevitable, it's the one thing we can absolutely, without a doubt, depend upon is change. I think most of you listening would agree that the world as we know it is changing, and it is changing quickly. Man, oh man, have we had some big shifts lately. While we have just witnessed some really beautiful shifts in consciousness, the U.S. government in the U.S. government in particular, with the recent Supreme Court ruling in favor of marriages for all, regardless of sexual preferences, as well as the conversation and many states pulling down the Confederate flag. There was a beautiful African-American woman who actually climbed a flagpole and said, this Confederate flag is coming down today, and she took it down and very peacefully abided with the officers afterwards, but she did not care about the consequences. She knew that it was time for a significant shift to happen. And also, the other thing is Obamacare got upheld in the Supreme Court, and that's going forward so that there is access to health care for all, regardless of their economic status. We've also had some challenges in the news. We've had bizarre weather patterns. We've had some catastrophic earth changes. And so what does this all mean? What does this really all mean? You think about the old Chinese proverb that says, may you live in interesting times. It seems like that's exactly what we're doing today. There are religious teachers out there in the world, traditional religious teachers out there that say what is coming is the long anticipated apocalypse described in the book of Revelation of the Bible. While many others believe that there is a tremendous amount of loving light being released on our planet that is causing humanity on a global scale to awaken to its true divinity, allowing us to transition from a third-dimensional reality into a much higher vibrational fifth-dimensional reality of balance, cooperation, peace, and love. And as a light worker myself, I have experienced many of the awakening or ascension symptoms that people have talked about and discussed with this inflow of light that is actually causing anything unlike it to come up to the surface to be released and healed. And so this battle, this concept of a battle between good and evil and dark and the light has been written about in many ancient texts and taught for centuries. So if you've ever asked the question, what is it about the history of our planet that has created this polarity, and what forces are behind this dark and light energy? Could it be possible that we might be the generation that could see the conclusion of this never-ending battle? Well, joining me here today is Gordon Asher Davidson, and he is the author of The Transfiguration of Our World: How a Light Alliance is Transforming Darkness and Creating a New Earth, to answer these questions and many more. So before I bring Gordon on, let me tell you a little bit more about him. Gordon Asher Davidson has a long career of active leadership in social change institutions and movements. Pursuing a deep inner meditative life has culminated in Gordon's recently expanded book, The Transfiguration of Our World, which is what we're going to be talking about here today. Gordon's experience includes co-authoring with his wife, Corinne McLaughlin, The Practical, Visionary, and Spiritual Politics, with a foreword that was written by the Dalai Lama. Gordon is a co-founder of Sirius, a spiritual environmental community in Massachusetts, and he also serves as founding director of the Social Investment Forum, which is a forum for sustainable and responsible investments. He is also the founder of and co-director of the Center for Visionary Leadership and has offered many clients worldwide deep spiritual guidance and transformational consulting for over 20 years. Gordon has maintained a 20-year meditative practice, and he contacts with spiritual beings in the inner worlds who are guiding human evolution. In this book, this brand new revised book that we're going to be discussing today, The Transfiguration of Our World, he illuminates what is occurring today from the perspective of the higher spiritual intelligences who are inspiring and supporting humanity's evolution into greater compassion and understanding. He provides a vision of humanity co-creating with masters and galactic civilizations. And he is here today with me. Gordon, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Sylvia. It's a pleasure and joy to be with you.
Well, it is a pleasure and a joy to have you here. So I have a lot of questions for you. Your book is really very interesting. When it came into my universe, I looked at the title and I thought, I have to read this book. I mean, for me, books jump out at me, and I think the timing of this could not be any better.
Yes.
But before we dig into the book, I mean, you have been someone who practices meditation for over 20 years. Mm-hmm. So what prompted you to explore this as a spiritual practice for you that allowed you to connect to spiritual dimensions through meditation? I'm sure there's lots of things that bring people to meditation, but once you began it, how did this all happen where you started to connect on a different level than most people are able to?
Well, actually, I've been meditating for 45 years.
Oh, wow.
But it's during the last 20 years that I established this contact with higher levels of consciousness and different spiritual beings. And I work very closely with a spiritual master who I have regular telepathic conversation with on a daily basis. And it really was the result of my own spiritual practice over a very long period of time, and involved in lots of different service projects. But it culminated really with an event where an arsonist burned our house to the ground, and I was very, very upset with God and everything else, because we were good spiritual people, and I couldn't understand why this happened to us. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, it became clear to me that the reason was that I was really relying more on my self-will than really truly relinquishing my will to the higher will. And this was a very intensive process, as you can imagine. It took me about a year after that event to really, truly surrender and say, all right, I will do whatever is your will. I really do, and surrender my own will. And I meant it. And at that moment, I began this telepathic relationship with several spiritual masters, and ultimately, primarily with one, and was given many different projects and initiatives to carry out, including starting the center in Washington, D.C., the Center for Visionary Leadership, building up an international network of meditation groups, and writing books that you mentioned, and many other things. So it's been the most powerful transformational relationship you can possibly imagine, and in especially the last, and over that 20-year period with this type of conversation, I've been given a lot of information about what is going on in our world and why it is the way it is, and especially in the last 3 years, a lot about where we are in the evolutionary cycle of Earth, and that we are at a transfigurational point.
Wow. I'm going to interrupt you for just a moment, Gordon. I apologize. We're going to move right into a break. And when we return, I want to finish this conversation with you. And please stay tuned, everyone, because this is the show you want to listen to. We'll be back in just a moment.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Welcome to The Gathering Around My Kitchen Table on Equilarium FM, Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join my guests as we integrate spirituality into everyday reality with vibrant conversations, inspired interviews, and my latest channeled guidance to inspire and brighten your day. I'm Claire Johnson, and together we'll be raising vibrations across the nations.
Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake. Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back. This is Sylvia Henderson. You're listening to Intuitive Transformations Radio on OMTimes. I have with me here my very special guest, Gordon Asher Davidson. And before we went to the break, he was just sharing about how he's actually been a meditator for over 40 years. But in the last 20 years, something changed. He shared about how their home had burned down and how he had an awareness that he had not truly surrendered. And so there's this beautiful, which I loved hearing that, because I think all of us struggle with surrendering completely to the divine. And before we went to the break, he was just about to talk about the last 3 years and how you've been working with masters and these spiritual teachers that have been guiding you. Is that correct, Gordon?
Yes, that's right. And in that process, I have developed quite a very comprehensive overview of where we are in our evolutionary process and where we're going and why things are the way they are today in the world. So they encouraged me to do a teleseminar, which I did 3 years ago with an international group of people, and that went extremely well. And then they encouraged me to write a book about it, which I somewhat hesitantly did. And that ultimately became the book that you have. And so it's been a step-by-step process of just bringing out this information. And the response has been tremendous. And I'm very, very pleased to see the way people are relating to it. And what people say so much is that it gives them hope. It gives them a positive vision of the future. And it helps them to understand why things are the way they are in the world. Because we're dealing with a very organized system of control that has been instituted by a group of beings who have tried to control every aspect of human life and exploit the resources for their own benefit. And all that is changing now because those beings who actually started that whole dynamic on our planet are no longer present here. They have been removed from the planet. And we now have the unraveling of their systems, which are the only people trying to keep them going are the people who cooperated with these beings because they were from outside of our planet. And they have all been taken out. And so the humans are trying to keep the systems going, but not very successfully. Meanwhile, there is a very powerful galactic light alliance of beings who are very engaged now with our Earth and are helping tremendously in supporting this transfiguration process that we're in the middle of. And there is a very detailed plan of how all this is going to be shifted, including a complete transformation of the financial system, which has been one of the core control systems for the planet, and the raising of the frequency of everyone on the planet, which is underway, as we all know, for it all make, that the energies are rising every single day more and more, and that we are actually moving very rapidly into a state where you will have to be able to resonate with the frequency of love to some degree in order to remain on the planet. It's like the basic minimum requirements to be on Earth are shifting. And that means that we are going to go through quite a transfigurational process. And those who are no longer not able to do that will be moving into other systems where they can continue their evolution and in environments that are exact match for the resonance frequency they hold. And it's going to be a shifting because the function of Earth to be a transmutation center holding all the energy and people that are, a bit on the heavy side, all that is being shifted now. And we are really going to move into the era where the spiritual creativity of every single being on Earth is going to be honored and allowed to fully flower all over the world. And This is something that's going to happen because the basic needs for people's food, shelter, clothing, healthcare, education, and opportunities will all be provided for. That is part of the vision for the next era that we're entering into. And once that's present, the subconscious survival fear that exists will be very much diminished. We won't feel that sense of, urgent fear about our own well-being on that basic survival level. Instead, we're going to be focusing on our creativity and what we want, what brings us joy, what we'd like to create that we want to share with other people. And it's really a tremendous future that we have in store for us. So, and I am completely convinced that we are moving rapidly into that future. And we can talk about details if you like.
I would love to dig into this. First of all, for the sake of the listeners and those who have not yet purchased your book and read it, when you're talking about these beings that have been removed from the planet, that the light is displacing, or can you talk a little bit about who are these beings? Where did they come from? Right. Are they human beings? Were they not human? What?
There was a group of beings very long ago in our history, actually millennia ago, who entered into the planet. There was a protection of our planet by guardians, but there was a kind of a time-space anomaly and a warp that appeared, and they entered into the planet. This was millennia ago.
So is this why we have the technology in Egypt and Easter Island? Is it around that time, or?
Oh, previous to that, pre-Lemuria.
Okay.
If you're familiar with it, there was Lemuria, then Atlantis, and then we had the people from Atlantis who escaped, came and created the civilizations in Tibet and Egypt and Central America. But way before that, and they came in and they were able to establish, they were a predatory type non-human race who saw the planet as a place to basically exploit the resources, including human beings. And they were discovered very early on when we came in here by the protectors, by the spiritual light forces. And there was a great question about whether they should be allowed to remain then at that time or be removed. And it was decided that they would be allowed to remain because humanity, having to choose between the path of light and the path of darkness, greed and selfishness, or love and sharing and contributing, that choice and experiencing the karma of our choices was the fastest way we could evolve on this planet. And that was a choice, that allowing them to remain was a choice of the solar level, solar systemic level, the solar council. But what happened was these forces had established themselves on Earth, built all the kinds of control systems we're fairly familiar with, and really developed this control more and more all the way through until 9/11. 9/11 was an attempt to create an event that would even more fully establish their control. And they did successfully create the Patriot Act, and they tried to invade the Middle East and gain control of the oil, which didn't work out so well.
Well, when you say establish their control, it's all fear-based, really. That's how they've been controlling the masses, is by spewing out more fear, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And so having a terrorist event supposedly like 9/11 was a very good way to create that kind of fear, and they live off that kind of fear as well. But what happened was that the greatest unintended consequence in human history, which was by doing what they did with 9/11, they actually, what happened is the Earth is a chakra in the body of the solar systemic being. Every planet is a chakra in that being. And because of the control systems and the darkness and the blockages that existed on Earth because of their system of control, the evolution of the solar system was being held back.
So we have had an impact on the entire solar system.
Absolutely.
So are we the lowest vibrational chakra then? Or are we someplace in the middle? Or
I'm not going to make a statement about that.
Okay.
But we definitely... At that time, we were definitely retarding the evolution of the solar system. So what happened was the Solar Council made a decision that the time had come to remove those particular entities, there were only 50 of them, from the planet, and also give permission to the galactic civilizations to begin to increase the amount of light that was pouring in and being allowed to flow into our planet. And that was in 2002. And starting in 2002, they began removing those, or either removing or turning them to the light. They always give the opportunity for these controlled darker beings to make a shift and to turn toward the light. And some of them did, but most of them were removed. And then they increased the amount of light flowing in, and they started to build closer and closer relationships with the leadership of the planet, with other many people who are receiving information, people who have actually in contact with them directly. All that has been unfolding. And there, as a result, there is a very well-developed plan that has been built with the help of the Galactics and the spiritual masters and leadership and of humanity to actually shift the whole system into this higher order functioning and clean up all the corruption and all the distortions in the current way the societies are organized.
So let me ask you a real quick question, because you're talking about the Galactic Alliance, and I'm thinking that they're in physical form. Is that correct?
Well, some of them, yes, many of them are.
And the spiritual masters are non-physical, but they're in a different dimension? Is that how they're able?
And most of the galactics are they can take on physical form by lowering the frequency that they're in, but most of them are they're in ships. There are many, many ships surrounding the Earth right now, and some of the galactics have actually presented themselves in physical form to some of the leaders of the planet. The heads of state, very major leaders, know about this, know about the galactics, know about the plan, and are fully cooperating with it.
Well, UFOs have been around for...
forever.
Forever, right? And so, but are they all friendly? All UFOs
they
friendly?
Are. Anything that's going on around our Earth at this time is completely benevolent. That's right. There have been periods in previous eras further back where that wasn't always true. But at this stage, there are no negative alien influences on Earth itself, and all the ships and all the influences around the planet are here totally to support the evolutionary unfoldment of humanity. And it's a very delicate process because they have to be careful not to violate human free will, in the sense of the more we do, every step we take to free ourselves, to raise our consciousness, to throw off all the illusion and fear of the dark side,
and really step into what is really real instead of the illusion of the compelling universe.
That's right. The more we do, the more they can do. That's a key point. See, they can. The more every step we take, they can increase and add more light.
I love that. So we're going to head into another break, everyone. Please stay with us. I have with me here Gordon Asher Davidson, and we are talking about his newly revised book, The Transfiguration of Our World. And there is so much more to come. You won't want to miss this. We'll be back in just a few moments.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio. Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Hey ladies, do you want to have that good hair day feeling all the time? Gentlemen, would you want your special someone to have that glow, letting you know she's feeling completely satisfied? This feeling and that glow can be yours by embracing your sexual power. So join me, Rachel Kenley, award-winning romance author, on the O-Spot. The O-Spot will guide you to that peak with guest interviews, book discussions, and conversations on the thrills of sexual empowerment. Put the zing back in your life. Come up and see me sometime on the O-Spot, live on Hump Day at 10 p.m. Eastern.
If you remember living fearlessly, joyfully, and in a world filled with adventure, happiness, pleasure, and unbridled living, then this show is for you. Join me, Dame Nicole Brandon, as I bring you the world's top experts in wealth, creativity, flow, seat-edging technology, space, wellness, health, love, lust, and passion, all merging together each week here at the Hub of Happiness. Mondays at 6 p.m. Pacific Time and 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Passionate Living, where you can ride on the magic carpet ride of living and learn how to lead a passionately wild, exciting, and outrageously amazing life.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business. Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids.
Welcome back. This is Sylvia Henderson, and I have Gordon Asher Davidson with me here, and you're listening to Intuitive Transformations on OMTimes Radio. And wow, we have been having a fantastic conversation with Gordon, who is a wealth of information. I mean, this gentleman has been meditating for over 40 years, and in the last 20 years has been touched and has connected with spiritual teachers and masters, and has been given the download, just this huge, vast amount of information to help explain everything that we're experiencing here in our world, all of the changes that we have going on here. And I can't believe we're already halfway through the show. And there's three big questions I want to make sure that we get to for sure. The financial and political situation in the world as it changes, Gordon. In particular, the financial, because I tell you, this is where this whole, in the United States, the 1%ers are a big issue in terms of those who have so much, and yet the vast number of people that are going trying to live on so very little. And even just on a global scale, because people around the globe are listening to this show, what is going on in our economic environment?
Well, this is a culmination point of the kind of system that has been put in place by the cabal, or the controlling forces.
And the cabal is what?
Cabal is a popular term that's used to describe those people at the core of the control systems who actually have set them up and organized it so that the people at the top completely are able to take and confiscate most of the money and most of the resources and for their own benefit, and leave very little for everyone else. Mm. And it's kind of secret. There are secret societies involved. There are all kinds of things going on.
Like the Illuminati, are they part of that?
It's another name for the Illuminati in the way that word is normally used, which is the secret controllers. But of course, it has another truer meaning, but it doesn't get used that way currently. But the important thing is that system they've built, which is built around the idea, in order to have money, get a loan, or have money circulate in the system, you have to charge interest for it. Mm-hmm. Every bit of money is an interest-based currency or interest-based loans, and that allows people to generate, those who own the banks and issue the money, gigantic, inconceivable sums of money from all the interest that accumulates on this money. And that all goes back to the people who own and control the banks. And then you have the Federal Reserve System, which is a way to enforce that. It's neither federal nor does it have any reserves. It's actually a cabal or a consortium of banks. It has nothing to do with federal government, hardly at all, except they appoint a few of the people in it. But it's run by the banks. And so this system has allowed them to basically accumulate such degrees of wealth, it's inconceivable to us. I'm talking about trillions, quadrillions, quintillions of dollars held by these banking groups and families. And this is well documented.
And this is in the United States alone, or is this
worldwide?
Worldwide, okay.
They have their branches in every major country in the world and every banking center. So this has allowed them. This is their primary mechanism of control, and of course, it keeps everybody in financial slavery, fear of survival. And this is another way that allows them to control.
With fear, once again.
Yeah, exactly. And however, what's happening now is that the Light Alliance has been working with many, many of the leadership people worldwide. And an interesting fact is, in the last 2.5 years, over 2,500 CEOs and CFOs have resigned, been indicted, or disappeared from leadership positions in major financial institutions and banks and been replaced by more lighted people. That is part of the way the transformation of the system is going, as well as with the Asian Infrastructure Bank, which is the new bank that is one of the foundations of the new system, as well as all the reforms the Pope has done on the Vatican banking system. And I can explain more about this. But
the Pope is amazing. Pope Francis is amazing.
He's one of the leaders of the Light Alliance. He's a key figure in the whole Light Alliance. However, the important thing is that there is this very well-developed plan for how the banking system is going to change. And what's going to happen is there's going to be a revocation of the charters of banks. And the banks will then be rechartered. Instead of for-profit companies owned by a few people, they will function like public utilities. And they will be able to make loans for a fee, but no interest will be charged on a loan. All interest-based money is going to disappear. There's going to be a worldwide currency backed by gold and commodities, one single currency worldwide, and then all national currencies can be exchanged for that stable, valued currency all worldwide.
So can I ask you a question, though? If this is going to happen, is it going to be like a reset button that's hit? Because there has to be some kind of how do you transition from this one system that's so broken and so oppressive into this completely other, very positive, uplifting system?
Absolutely. That's the core question that is the key to the whole thing. Well, there's several factors here. First of all, people had to get to the point where they understand how corrupted and broken the current system is so that they will be open to a new way of organizing the system and not go into fear, but actually realize that it will be benevolent and helpful to all of us. That's the first thing. That's why it has had to go to such a level of dysfunction as
that
it is. That
makes sense. Yeah.
Yes. But primarily, there is a well-organized group worldwide who have already worked on the programs to run the new computer systems are already installed on the financial computers. They're not active, but they're there on the computers, and they're ready to be activated at the right moment. The right moment is going to come in relationship to the solar being. At a certain point, a tremendous wave of love is going to be released to our planet, far beyond anything we've ever experienced on this planet. And what that means is that if people are resonating with the energy of love to whatever degree, it doesn't mean you have to be perfectly loving. It just simply means you understand that love is important and is a principle of the universe. When you understand that, you will be fine. You will be able to resonate with this new frequency. But those people who are not, who are filled with hatred, violence, greed, and selfishness, will not be able to remain on this planet. The frequency will be too high, and that they simply will be moving on to other dimensions where they can continue their life and their evolution, but it will not be on planet Earth. There is this huge sort that's going to go on for the Earth. And when that happens, that's the time when all this transition and shift into the new systems will be introduced, will be thoroughly explained. They have 40 hours of pre-planned worldwide television programming that will be put forward, which will explain the true history of our planet, what has happened, and what is being done now at that moment to actually change it and make it so we can move forward into this higher evolutionary cycle for everyone on the planet. And there will be a sharing of wealth. All the money and wealth and resources that have been gained through financial trickery and manipulation of the system will be confiscated and shared with everyone on the planet, so that every single human being will have what they need for all the basics of life and will not have to worry about their survival any longer.
So let me ask you this. So in your meditation time when you've been in contact and getting this information, have you been given any kind, like how close do you think we are versus where we were? I mean, so much has changed just in like the last 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
So much has changed on the planet
And if
in
you
5
look at
years.
the conditions of the world, and you feel a sense of it's culminating. You can sense that the problems are being so clearly highlighted, all the issues. I mean, we have this huge crisis going on with the banking system, with Greece. If they default,
Everything will crumble.
Deutsche Bank has $50 trillion worth of derivatives based on the Greek debt loans that they've made to Greece.
Wow.
And that's all listed as assets on their books for the banks.
And it's not.
It's not an asset. And if it goes down, the banks are going to be insolvent. And this is a really, so the moment is
We're on the edge.
Yeah, we're on the edge. I can't give you an exact date because it also depends on what's going to allow this release of energy is that our solar system is one of 7 solar systems in an even greater being called the heavenly being, and it's making a new alignment with those 7 systems. And when that alignment is complete, which is almost completed, this is what I've been told. Once that alignment is completed, that's what's going to allow this release of this tremendous love energy to our planet.
So we only have a few more minutes before our next break, but I want to start the conversation, at least for those few minutes before we go into break. What can people do? And, what role can people like me who are helping people to release that discordant energy that they've stuffed down because we've been taught, don't feel your feelings. It's not okay. And that really is the doorway to wholeness, is to be able to let those emotions, energy and motion actually move and release so we're not stuck in this fearful, being controlled state. Go ahead.
It's very fundamentally important what you're saying. And we do need to really work with that, any emotions that are blocking us and holding us into those lower frequencies. And there are many, many techniques now for working with that. I work with people on integrating the soul, the higher self, the conscious self, and the subconscious, and really learning to make friends with your subconscious, to see it as an ally, and how you can learn how you can love and communicate with it.
Right.
It's very fundamentally important.
That is very, very important. So we're going to head into a break in just a moment. I just want to remind everyone that I have here with me Gordon Asher Davidson. We're talking about his newest book that's been newly revised, I should say, book, The Transfiguration of Our World, How a Light Alliance is Transforming Darkness and Creating a New Earth. And I tell you, things are changing, people, and we need to be abreast of those changes and what it all means. We'll be back in just a moment, and when we return, we're going to continue this conversation. I'll have Gordon share a little bit about how he works with people to help them step into what's going to make this change happen on a very personal, individual level. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM. Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hi, my name is Monica, and I'm the host of Co-Creating Now. Give yourself an opportunity to connect with your all-knowing higher self and manifest joy, love, and peace together every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Eastern.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. The cutting edge of conscious radio, OMTimes Radio, IOM-FM.
Welcome back. Again, this is Sylvia Henderson on OMTimes Radio with the Intuitive Transformations radio show, and I have with me Gordon Asher Davidson, and we have been talking about his newly revised book, The Transfiguration of Our World, and we're going to continue our conversation about what we can do on an individual basis, what light workers can do to help usher in this light and to step into that vibration of love so that we have access to what our new world is going to be. And before we do that, though, I just want to share just some of the people that have endorsed this book. John Gray, who is author of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. He talks about this being an inspiring and positive vision which reveals what's really going on today behind the scenes. Barbara Marks Hubbard. Anybody in the spiritual world knows her name. And she highly endorses this book, as well as Marcy Shimoff, who is a #1 New York Times bestselling author of Happy for No Reason, Love for No Reason, and also Chicken Soup for the Women's Soul. And then Sonia Chicat, who is a well-known intuitive and psychic. And many more are endorsing what Gordon has put together in this book. And so I encourage you to go out and purchase this for yourself. And Gordon, also, can you share how people can get in touch with you? Because even though you've just expanded on this book, so much has happened since it's gone to print. And so how are you planning to keep people aware of how to interpret the more to come events?
Yes, and things are happening so fast every day. I've been doing teleseminars, but what I'm going to do now is a regular show called Galactic News. And it's going to be news you can use from the higher dimensions. And I'm going to give updates on all that's happening from a higher perspective, what is going on the inner dimensions and what the masters are doing and the galactics are doing, and then how that's being reflected into the world today. So if you're interested, I'm going to have all the information on our website, which is worldtransfiguration.com. That's where I keep all the information I put out to the people. We also have another website called visionarylead.org, which is another website where we have a huge number of articles and things that we've written, my wife and I, and there's a lot of information there. So worldtransfiguration.com and visionarylead.org are our two primary websites, and I am also offering counseling, of course, to work one-on-one with people. I'm working with international clients who are, many of them, executive level people who are very involved in leadership roles and positions, and helping them to understand what's going on today, how they can level their own participation in leadership and really move into these higher dimensional frequencies, which are so powerfully interfacing with humanity at this time.
Well, I tell you, I know I have been feeling it ever since that red blood moon. That red blood moon that we had, I finally broke through. But boy, I tell you, it's been like intense. So much purging.
Very intensive. Very intensive.
Very, very intense. So, one of the things I also enjoyed about your book is that you had several meditations in there that people can step into that will help them raise their vibration. And so what are, before we went to the break, we were talking about what can people do on an individual basis that will help them really step into that love. And when you say love, I'm assuming you're meaning unconditional love, that all allowing, that all accepting, that letting go of the judgments.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And even much more than that, but certainly that is a very fundamental. Forgiveness is another key.
Huge, right?
Process for helping us to let go of what we might have done, self-forgiveness, forgiveness of others, and forgiveness even of the people who have done horrible things to the world and to humanity. We have, as was so beautifully demonstrated from the people from the church in Charleston. That was such an incredible demonstration.
Wasn't that amazing to have those family members reach out and say, I forgive you?
Yeah, that was extraordinary. And that's part of what we are all going to be encouraged to do. Also, being very aware of the energies around you. I always tell people, when you watch a show on TV or read a book or listen to someone, always tune in and sense how do I feel energetically after I have exposed myself to this particular idea, whether it's a set of ideas or it's an energy you receive from someone? How does that affect me in my feelings, in my thought? And if people start really paying attention to that, they'll realize a lot of things we're being bombarded with are not particularly beneficial. So I always tell people to become as careful about what you take in through any media as you are with what you take in for food or the friends that you choose. It's extraordinarily important.
It is so extraordinarily important. And it's interesting because I think that we've become, I can't speak for the entire world, but in the United States in particular, we have not been mindful about what we're allowing into our conscious awareness.
That's right. And a lot of that is carefully designed to make us more fearful and to make us more distrusting of other human beings and to see the world as a dangerous, terrible place and have a negative view of the future. One of the ideas that I'm promulgating right now is the idea that we, as the enlightened humanity, need to occupy the future. Because
I like that.
It's the future that is being created through our thoughts and our attitudes and our expectations and what we hold that where the future can be, because we have tremendous spiritual creative power that we're only just beginning to realize that we do create our reality.
Absolutely.
So this is something that people can begin to do instead of allowing yourself to be influenced into a negative view of the future. Start cultivating, going to places and websites and magazines and people who are giving out a positive view of the future, because it's real. It's real because if you start to live in that state with that thought and that vibrational frequency, that becomes your world. And my world now is filled with wonderful, loving, lighted people who I really love, and I have so many wonderful relationships and working with so many people in all these different ways to get the word out. It's just like I feel I'm already living in the future that I'm talking about. And the other thing I teach people is to learn how to stand in the future and be so present in that future that you are visioning, and be with your future self, and be that future self who has a great wisdom to offer you. And then standing with your future self, watch the present unfolding towards you where you're standing in the future.
I really, really like that. And it's really interesting because it's the imagination that is the connection between conscious awareness and our subconscious or unconscious awareness.
Absolutely.
And that's where we create from. It's first imagined in the mind, and just by imagining it in the mind, you do feel a vibration, shift either toward something that's toward love or toward fear. And so it's like, how are you choosing to allow yourself to create? If you allow yourself to just be a sponge and pick up anything, then your life is going to be a reflection of that, because everything is a projection outward, right?
That's right. It all starts within us. And it's our divine right to learn about our creative power and use it for the highest good that we can conceive. That is what we are it's part of being conscious. It's part of recognizing your spiritual nature, your absolute divinity, and that we have this power to create. And we will grow and grow in that capacity until someday we'll be the embodiment of a planet.
I love that. Well, I'm really excited. It sounds like there is a higher plan for the planet.
Absolutely.
That we can step out of this fear that we've been holding on to. As a matter of fact, being in the fear is probably stifling the progress toward the expansion.
Absolutely.
And this newsletter that you have, it will certainly, can people just ask you questions? I know you did some. Okay.
It's going to be live online. And I will be and you'll see a video, and then we have dialogue and discussion. I'll share things. We'll have questions and dialogue. If people can't attend one, it'll be recorded. You can watch it later. And I've been doing this with the teleseminars for quite some time. This is a little different. It's going to be like a news show, but it's going to have a meditation, and it's also going to be spiritual news that you can use.
I love that, and I love the meditation part, because really it's that everything is inside, right? It's all within us. And that's how you began this journey with your master and these other spiritual teachers.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And that we are the source of our experience, the source of the conditions in the world. And when we realize that we have that power, we can change anything. And I have seen people make incredible changes. And we now see the world starting to change, because so many people now are waking up, so powerfully from all this light and love that's being radiated to the planet. And we see all the upheavals going on with, in the Arab world and everywhere. People demanding their freedom, demanding their basic conditions of life where they can be joyful and create.
I love that. It's a little bit to me like a glass with dirty, muddy water in it with maybe some settlement in the bottom, and this clean, pure water being poured in that loosens up the settlement so that it can be removed from the container.
Yes.
So it's this displacement of energy that we've been experiencing. Well, Gordon, thank you so much for joining me on my show today. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. You are such a delight. I hope that I can have you on again, because things are going to continue to change, right?
Absolutely. There's only one constant, and that's change.
Isn't that true?
Absolutely. I would love to come on your show again.
That would be beautiful. That would be absolutely wonderful.
Yes.
I'm sorry, what was that last thing?
I said it's a delight to meet you.
Oh, same thing here. Same thing here. I want to thank all of my listeners for tuning in again. I want you to know that next week I'm going to have Robbie Holtz on with me, and we're going to talk about awakening through Aboriginal traditions. And I hope you can join me then. I'll be back here next Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific Time. And this, again, is Intuitive Transformations. Be sure to visit me on my website, intuitivetransformations.net. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful week, and know that you are loved.